How much of this presuppositional model have you been dealing with over the years?
Oh, there are many kinds of presuppositionalism. They mutate faster than bacteria and grow quicker than mushrooms. So I'm unable to say if there's any single school or even several identifiable schools. Theology, like any intellectual discipline, can become fruitful and multiply, to use a biblical verse. And it takes even the skills of an advanced theologian to keep track of the various sorts of presuppositionalists. And maybe it's too soon to write the history of modern presuppositionalism, but I think it has some general characteristics, and one of them has been exemplified tonight, and this might give us pause for further reflection. Presuppositionalism demands a schism of method and truth. It demands a sort of collective agnosticism where we cannot agree, indeed we're forbidden from agreeing, that there is one applicable method, one applicable truth. Then, of course, left without an agreed upon method, each party then somehow feels at liberty to sort of go their own way, confident that they can never be proven false. And I think it's that sort of intellectual pacification that presuppositionalism is offering to people who want it. The problem is, of course, presuppositionalism, by accepting schism of methods, only infects its own house. Because how do you deal with Christians, for example, that don't read the Bible the same way? They can't agree on a method for deciding whether or not faith alone is the true path, or perhaps works are involved, just to mention one theological problem that has caused terrible schisms. Once you invite schism into your home, it's impossible to drive out. So that's why I think presuppositionalism in the long run will continue to be very unstable.
What presuppositional model that, what presuppositional model is a healthy model to practice, in your opinion, Dr. Shook?
Oh, in my book, I select out what I think is the most stable version of it. It actually finds a way to come back into an alliance with natural theology, or what's often called evidentialism. Many presuppositionalists sort of characterize what they're doing as the very opposite of evidentialism. I think they'll discover that that's not fruitful. But if you combine the two, you can have a very stable theology that on the one hand uses a great deal of natural evidence to try to establish the existence of a beneficent creator, and then follows through by saying that that beneficent creator would ensure that humanity would be able to find out God's existence. At least that model doesn't suffer from incoherencies or any sort of schismatic methods.
Dr. Shook, is it okay if I interject a little bit, Dr. Jones?
Yes, go ahead. I wanted to ask Colin one more question, but go for it, Christopher.
Well, I just wanted to interject this one a little bit. The schism that you're talking about, I'm glad that you brought that up, and I'm also glad that you brought up the evidential apologetics, which the current wave of presuppositionalists seems to be a reaction against, because the evidentialist apologetics didn't seem to be as fruitful for them. And I did have an opportunity to talk to a presuppositionalist on one of my rogue shows that was on a Saturday instead of a Sunday. It was last Saturday, and his name was Dustin Seegers, and he is a very he's a presuppositionalist, and he laid out in no uncertain terms what that schism is in methodologies that you're talking about. And I just wanted to take a moment to reiterate the way that he outlined it, to give a little clarity about why they chose, it seems like they purposely choose this schism in methodology. And the schism in methodologies is to ensure that a secular methodology is not chosen. And let me just lay this out as quickly as I can. So according to Dustin, there are Christian apologetics have done two things. Method one is the method used by the vast majority, is the method that allows the secular world to determine the standards for certainty. And then Christians come along and say, we can meet those standards His critique against that is, if that's the general approach, then Christianity becomes certain at the cost of something else being more certain than it. And then Christians grant that there is something of higher epistemic authority, those very standards that were delivered to them and by which they measure the truthfulness of Christianity. All right, so I think this is like really revealing the cards. And then you don't need Christianity for your standards because secular standards make sense on their own, and Christianity becomes the conclusion of the system instead of the heart of the system. He contrasts that to the second method, which is presuppositionalism, where there cannot be certainty about anything without Christianity. So I think that's the allure of the schism of the methods.